Hello and welcome to Writing Wednesday. I'm Coach Brenda Harrett and I'm so excited to be here today to share with you 5 tips to get in the mind of your readers and why you would want to do that, and an exercise to really get you in there. So let's get started because it's going to be an action-packed episode today, and I just want to make sure that we get all the content in because it's a lot of content. And then, of course, I like to take questions and comment and actually have a discussion with those joining live. So if you're joining live, let me know where you're watching from and all that good stuff. And if you have your ideal avatar for your reader, let me know their name, maybe something about them specifically. So something about your reader specifically. If you've named them, my reader, her name is Eve. Um, and if you know some specific things about her, you can rate those things in there as well. So my lady Eve, she's a bit of a dreamer, and she is also a little bit of a control freak, and she struggles with her. Now I'm talking about these books up here. This is for both a little bit of a dreamer, right? You got to be a little bit of a dreamer to become an author for sure. But these books up here are about your worth and discovering your worth, following God, all of those things. And so we're talking about Eve up here. She's a little bit of a control freak. She needs to surrender and really follow what God's calling her to do. And maybe that is writing a book, maybe it's not. But if it is, then she comes down here and grabs these as well. But we got to get in her mind, and how do we do that? So that's what we're talking about here today. So if you have your avatar's name, let me know her name in the comments, his or her name. And if you don't even know what we're talking about, say, help. I don't know what I'm talking about. So welcome for those watching live. Let's see who we've got today. We've got Jan, we've got Laura, we've got Kim. Thank you, ladies, for being here watching live. Kim's from Utah. I saw the weather pattern was starting to change, and it's so funny how it stops like right there. So I think you guys had a nice cold front come through, maybe even some snow, Kim. And then we're back up in the 90s. So it's kind of crazy how that happens. But and when I say we're back up in the 90s, that's all of us. Laura's in East Texas with me, Jan's in East Texas with me, and of course I'm here too. So Kim says she doesn't have a name for her avatar, but her reader would probably be struggling to hear God's voice and letting his truth speak into her heart. Ooh, that's a good one. Struggling to hear God's voice. Now I'm trying to think of maybe Sarah would be a good name for your lady. Jan, we got Ruby. We named Jan's over at the beach retreat, which was fun. But I'm thinking Sarah. And the reason why I'm thinking this is because of Abraham and Sarah in the Bible, Kim, and how she doubted what God was like. She laughed out loud, right, when God told her what was going to happen. So maybe that's your girl. Maybe she's a little like Sarah. So maybe you can pick a name from the Bible, Kim, that correlates with the characteristics of your girl. All right, she says, we are chilly here today. Snow in the upper elevations. We had a crazy storm yesterday. When we get rain, it has to be dramatic. I know, right? That's kind of how it is for us too. It either rains for days on end or it's just one big dramatic storm. Craziness. Okay, let's dive into the content today. We have 5 tips I'm going to give you. If you got the email, you've got the tips. So make sure you go back and take that information, keep the email, and keep those in front of your mind. But we're going to dive into the exercise as well and how you actually start doing this. So tip number 1 is to create a detailed persona. And we've kind of talked a little bit about this, like naming her, but like think about what your girl is into outside of what you're trying to offer her. So for instance, my girl, she's a Christian, and she may or may not be really going to church or that kind of thing, but her interests are maybe shopping at Hobby Lobby. She likes that. She does like going to church. She may or may not be part of a small group at church. She's interested in learning more, so maybe she's dabbling in some Bible studies, some daily devotionals, those types of things. And ask yourself this: what are they really looking for when they're coming across your writing? What is it that they need from you? Like, think about your reader and how she pertains to the problem that you're solving. What does her daily life look like? We're going to get a little bit more in that in point 2, but really create this detailed persona about her. Is she someone who maybe struggles with her weight? Does she struggle with her looks? Does she struggle with And maybe you're not writing about any of those things. Maybe you're not writing about weight loss. You're not writing about beauty. You're not writing about any particular thing. Now, I know Jan is writing about that because she's writing about spiritual beauty. Um, but maybe you're not specifically, but your reader still is well-rounded person, right? She still has other things going on besides the one problem that you're trying to solve. And so if you can figure out some of those things in her life, you're going to be able to talk to her more like you would a friend, right? So start thinking of her as your friend. What is your friend going through? What is she experiencing? When I very first started writing back in 2000, well, I started in 2003 writing and then progressed, my book, I really published the first one in 2018. So 15 years later, for those who were asking about how long it takes to write your book, it depends, right? 15 years for this one, and then a few months for these, 5 months, I think, for this one, 6 months for all four of those together. So it really just depends on the book, the content, and your commitment, right? But when I very first started writing those books, I chose a friend that I felt needed this book. She was a lot like me, and I was solving my former self's problem, right? And so I literally started writing it to her and really thinking about her. And so maybe you have a friend like that in your life, and maybe you don't call her out, you don't say her name, but you're just endearingly writing to her. And you're starting to think about this, not only in your writing, but in your marketing. And inside of our community, we've been talking about marketing platforms and your Facebook platform and all of this. And this is where you want to start talking to your ideal reader in the tone of voice that they want to be talked to in, right? And reaching them where they are at. And so if you have that persona and you really know what's going on in their life, this will help you so much more. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Some comments. Y'all are flying with the comments. Kim says we had hail. Oh gosh, hail. That's all. Oh wow, and the trampoline came over the fence. That is quite a storm. Quite a storm. Wow, yes. And I love that you guys support each other. She says she loves Jan's topic. And yes, and Jan's got an amazing framework for her books. And so I'm super excited to see those come to pass very soon, Jan. Okay. The second point is to empathize with their journey. So not just the journey of where the problem you're taking them through, right? So in my first book, I'm helping people discover their worth in a disposable world, right? So it's really about worth and feeling worthy. And so I have to think about where they are in that journey, but also the journey of their life. Where are they right now? And this really, the exercise that we're going to talk about at the end will really help you kind of figure that out too. But think about the journey that they're going to go on with you, or that maybe they've already been on to start looking for their worth. Maybe they've started turning into, that we're talking about my book specifically. So maybe they started turning to things that they shouldn't, right? So I actually address the lies in the first part of my book. I address the lies. We talk about creative avoidance, and I point out some of the things in the book. I talk about maybe you're choosing to creatively avoid your calling by sleeping, shopping, eating. I list all the things. There's drugs, all the different ways people can creatively avoid, because it's not just the way I do it, right? I creatively avoid by lately, should I admit this to you guys? Binge watching a television show that has 6 seasons. I just started watching this show. What is it even called? White Collar, I think it's called. White Collar. It's about white collar crime. I found it on Netflix, just started watching it for the first time over the weekend, and I've been like binging it. And so my creative avoidance is binging that show these days. It used to be in the past, my creative avoidance would be napping. Like that was my go-to. I would just be like, my brain's over. I just go take a nap. Well, now I can't do that. My brain, it doesn't function that way. I can't just go take a nap. For one, I won't sleep at night. And for two, my brain won't stop, right? So I have to distract it. And I do that by numbing it out with a television show, which isn't the worst way to numb out your brain, right? So it's not that it's a horrible thing to do, but we have to know what our people are doing, right? And we have to understand that if we're creatively avoiding our calling, and that's what the book is about, right? Creatively avoiding, understanding your worth so that you'll take the action. If you are struggling with your creative avoidances, how to overcome that. And recognizing that that's what you're doing and allowing yourself, right? So by me giving all the different varieties of creative avoidance, I'm saying, I see you. I see you. I also struggle. Here's the way I struggle, and I see you. So I'm connecting with my reader there. But if I was just to say, well, I creatively avoid by doing this, my reader might not ever realize that she's creatively avoiding by doing whatever it is she's doing, right? So we have to think about other ways that people are handling the problem that we're solving, other ways that they're dealing. What does their journey look like, and what ways are they journeying? Because it's not going to look exactly like ours. Now, if we want to share our story, right? Because that's important, and it's an important way for people to connect with us. But we also have to understand that they may be going, their journey may look completely different. So when we're talking, let's just take the topic of grief, for instance. Congratulations, Janet Cruz. Her book just came out this week called Grief Stinks, and it's about grief. It's about journeying through the process of grief, and that there is a smile waiting for you at the other end. And she says, let's get you smiling again. That is her subtitle. Let's get you smiling again. And everybody grieves differently, and everybody has something different to grieve, right? So I may not have experienced the same losses that you have. You may not experience the same losses that I have, but I can tell my story of what I have lost, and then I can walk through some scenarios of other types of losses and let you know as the reader that I see you. I see you. I don't understand what you're going through because I haven't gone through it, but I see you and I hear you, right? Because that's what people want. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be acknowledged in their journey. So you have to understand where they are in their journey, empathize with them, and really make it personal. Okay, you want to speak their language. Now, this is important. And this is one of the reasons why I have this business that I have. Because when I was working for a different publisher, because I right after my book was published, I was hired by the company that helped me publish my first book. And ideally, we were I was coaching authors just like I coach now, and I loved it. And I became the president of that company, and I was really hopeful that this would be my forever job and that that's what I would do. Well, it is my forever job, but I had to take it on myself in my own company because that company wanted to go after a different clientele. I didn't want to go after that clientele. I did not want to work with authors who were just, for a lack of better words, throwing money at books. I want to work with people like me, similar to me, who have a story to tell, who have a passion, who really want to learn the process of publishing their books and want to make a difference with their books in that way. They're not necessarily, they're not interested in buying their way onto a bestsellers list. They're not interested in buying their fans and their content. They're not interested in just this persona of being an author, but they're actually interested in getting their stories across. And so I had to walk away from that job because I knew that that's not who I wanted to speak to. And I didn't speak that language. I don't understand that language. It's not who I am. I'm authentic, and I want to, not that all of those authors weren't authentic. It's just that it's a different mindset, right? It's a different, when you have $150,000 to publish a book with, it's a different mindset than when you are scraping together your editing funds, right? And so I want to talk to the authors who are scraping together their editing funds, right? And maybe they're not scraping it together. Maybe they've saved, maybe they've put it aside, but that it's not just, it doesn't just come easy to them, that they actually are really committed to the book process because they understand the cost, physically, the cost, right? And so different mindset. I had to move to the audience that I naturally speak to. I could not speak to that audience. I don't want to speak to that audience. That's not who I'm called to help. And so you have to speak in the language that your audience is ready for and that they are comfortable with, right? If I came on today and I was like, okay, authors, today we're going to talk about getting yourself on the bestseller list. It starts at $60,000. Who wants in, right? My audience is going to go, you've lost your mind, and they're going to leave, right? All the people on live today are probably going to jump off and be like, she's gone crazy. There are authors doing this, okay? This is a real business that people can do, and they are doing it. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. That's why I don't talk about it. But you have to figure out what works for your audience, how you can speak to them, and it really comes from being authentically you, right? And so when you're starting to identify your readers, identify who you naturally connect with. for me, I think about it's the underdog, right? I naturally connect to an underdog. And I hope nobody takes offense to that if you're one of my authors and you're on. Um, because for me it's the person who maybe has been beat down a little bit and they need that discovering of worth. They need to be reminded that they're worthy, that their story matters. They need that because that was me, right? And so, and it's still me regularly. I have coaches, I work with coaches that coach me into being the person I am. I don't wake up like this every day and be like, yay, let's go, I've got it. Like, I struggle just like you do. And so I have to find coaches that feed me the same way that I can feed my clients. And in doing that, you have to make that connection, and it has to be authentic. If it's not authentic, it's not going to feel good to you. You're not going to come across like you should. They're not going to connect with you or your book. They're going to see it in your messaging. And so I love what some of you have done over on your author pages. For my authors watching, I have seen Jan and Lisa and Laura, all of you guys. Kim's been doing it from the beginning, naturally connecting with your readers. And for Lisa, I love it because she's been posting this stuff on her profile forever. And now she's just taken it over and put it on her author page. So it's so authentically, it's who she's been, but now she's just focusing it for her writing. And so I love seeing that because it's so true that you have to connect. You have to connect. Okay, let's see. Comments from my Facebook readers are helping me focus on oh yes, I love that, Jan. Love it. See, that's why we start early in doing your building your audience. If you're not building your audience long before your book comes out, first of all, you have no one to publish your book to. Secondly, this is great information for you to be connecting with that reader ahead of time, to understand what they're going through. The same way you can go into Facebook groups and kind of watch and see what's happening in these groups. Join the groups that your people are in. What kind of groups are they in? Are they in Christian mom groups? Are they in MOPS groups? Are they in crafting groups? What kind of groups are they in on Facebook? What are they saying? What are their needs? Find that out. See how they're talking. You're so dead on, Jan. That's great. I'm so happy that you're getting that feedback from your Facebook page. Okay. Kim says, no offense taken. You have been such a great help in the way you relate. Oh, I'm so blessed that I am able to work with you. Okay, stop. Don't make me cry. Don't make me cry. I needed that today. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. I don't know any way else to be, right? This is who I am. And so, and it's funny, I try not to watch my videos after I record them because we can, the enemy likes to tear us apart, and I can get in my head about, I have this, I don't even know what's this. Okay. This is my natural hair, you guys. Curly, straight. This is natural. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been like, you know what? I'm embracing it. I don't care. I'm not going to curl it anymore. Well, some days I might, but I'm done. Like, if it wants to be straight, I'm going to be known as the lady with the straight bits. Like, I don't care, but in watching it back, sometimes we can just be so critical of ourselves. It's not healthy. And so I don't normally watch my stuff back because I don't want to be critical and overthinking of how I'm showing up with you guys. I just want to show up and be me, just like as if you were sitting in my living room and we were having this discussion. Because this is exactly what I would tell you if you were here. I would say, look at this crazy straight bit. And so that's how I want to be online as well. Okay, let's move on to the next point. So we are empathizing with them in their journey. We're speaking, let's start from the beginning. We're creating the detailed persona, empathizing with them in their journey, speaking their language, and now we're going to anticipate the questions that are already happening in their minds. What's happening along their journey? What questions are they going to have? What's the next step? We have to start anticipating this, right? And so this is great that Jan's having readers come alongside her on her Facebook page, and she can start seeing their comments, because it's going to start helping her see where's their mind going next, right? And that's what we have to start finding out. What's the next step? And we have to anticipate it. So as an author of 10 books now, being in the business for, published since 2018, I often have to stop and take a step back and say, okay, if you were in the writing stage right now, which I am, because I am writing a book. In fact, I had a moment this morning that I said, you have to publish at least one book yourself this year. I have published other books for other people, but I have not published my own book this year. And I'm like, you have to do at least one. You have to get this book done. And so for me, I have to stop and remind myself of that part of me. Who is that part? What is, and then I have to separate out, okay, now you're an experienced published author. You've done this 10 times already. Who are you working with that has never published before, and what are they asking? What do they need next? What's the question, right? And there's so many questions. That's why I coach, because I wrote the books, but and you can read them and they're great. I love them. I'm proud of these books. But coaching, there's nothing like it, because there's so many variables in this publishing industry. There's so many variables when we talk about front matter and back matter and page layout. And I'm working with an author right now on trim sizes. And just on trim sizes alone, there's so many variables and so many things to take into consideration. So in order for me to better serve you, I have to anticipate, where are you next? What's coming next? And so when I'm coaching you guys, that's what I try to think about. What's the next step, right? I can answer your question today, but what is the question that you're going to have as soon as you complete that step, right? That's what your reader's looking for too. And so you want to help them once they've accomplished part 1 of your book. What's the question that they're going to have? And that may help you write part 2, right, of your book, or whatever parts you have, however your framework's laid out. But really thinking through how they're walking through the journey, what questions they may have, is really going to help you. And in your marketing, how to talk to them online, what questions, what's already happening in their head. And I know you guys have experienced this. Have you ever thought about something and then you get on Facebook and like there's the answer and you're like, okay, Facebook, now you're freaking me out. Can you read my mind? Like, what's happening? But it's because the people that you're following, hopefully, are so in line with who you are and your needs, if you're following the right people, that you're seeing the answers that you're looking for, because they know they're following your journey. Does that make sense? And I hope that I'm doing that for my authors. I hope that when you come online and you see my content, that there's something there that you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. That's the next step for me. So I hope that that's the way it is, because that's really what I'm trying to do, is get in there and anticipate the questions that you have. Okay, the last step before we get into the exercise I want you guys to do, the last step is to create relatable scenarios, okay? Using examples, metaphors, stories that align with where your reader is every day. So again, for example, I am not a sports fan, really. I mean, I watch football every now and then with my husband because he's a huge sports fan. I've watched baseball with him before, all the sports, right? Because he is a huge sport fan. I'm not. I'm not, and you know what? My Eve, she might be. I have a reader who is that I know personally, who is a huge football fan, but I'm not writing to her. I'm not using football analogies in my everyday writing. Now, if I was writing a book about, I don't know, sports or that type of thing, I might, right? But knowing what my reader is really into is helping me use analogies that align with her life. And it makes me laugh because I'm thinking of one that Jesus gave me, that's in my first book, and it's Jesus is better than Walmart. Okay, because my reader, she shops at Walmart, and Jesus is better than Walmart. So he gave me this whole analogy on Jesus is better than Walmart, and it started as a blog post years ago, and then I included it in the book. But that's the thing, right? Think about where your reader's shopping. What is she doing? Like, can you relate it to those things? Can you create metaphors that relate to where she is? Okay. Use stories, use things that they can identify with. If you're writing a book for young women, what are they going through right now? They're going through a barrage of social media influencers. They're having to compete with, the Taylor Swift stuff and all the stuff out there, right? We don't maybe know that because I'm not living that. That's not my life right now, right? I'm 51 years old. I'm past that. But I have to get down. If I'm writing to 30-year-olds, I have to understand, where are they? And let me just tell you, I have that age group of kids, and they're struggling too, right? They are struggling. And so we have to figure out, what are their struggles? And if we don't know, we have to ask them. We can ask them on our Facebook. We can ask people we know. We could ask people we know to ask on their Facebook. Like if you have a daughter who's 30 and you're writing to 30-year-olds, have her ask on her Facebook, hey, I'm doing some research for my mom, and since most of my friends are my age, and ask the questions. Boom, boom, boom. What are they, right? Do research, find out what metaphors would work for your people. What are they thinking about? Where are they going? And you guys, we have it made with social media. Can you imagine trying to write a book these days without social media, without the internet? Um, I think about encyclopedias, and I loved encyclopedias. I loved the library when I was a kid, which is funny because I didn't like reading, but I loved like card catalogs and like finding the books. Um, and I loved encyclopedias. We had a collection of them when I was a kid. And can you imagine having to look everything up in an encyclopedia for your book research? Everything? Everything. I'm so glad we have the internet and it's up in like 3 seconds, right? So glad. We can communicate with people around the world. Um, Kim, I don't know if you've had the opportunity or if you've noticed, but in your distribution accounts, KDP and Ingram Spark, you can go in and look and see if you've sold books around the world. And it's so fascinating to see that and see what other countries are interested in your book and buying your book. It's really, really fun. My heritage is German. My grandmother was German. The grandmother that this book is based on, and her stories are in here. And so to see how many books I sell in Germany is always exciting to me. So anyway, I don't know why I went there, but I did. Okay, let's talk about the exercise. I'll repeat the 5 steps really quick, or the 5 tips. So you want to create a persona, including naming that person if you can. So you really have the characteristics of that person in your mind. You want to, and if you're a Christian woman writer, pick a person out of the Bible that you could see needing this book, right? Empathize with their journey, empathize with them. Where are they in their journey? What's their hope, their fear, their excitement? What are they addressing? How would they react? Think about those things. Speak their language. So be authentic, hopefully, but be authentic. Speak their language. If there are things like, one of the words that people keep saying these days that's cracking me up is sus. Have y'all heard this? Like, oh, that's sus. And it's, I guess it means like it's suspicious or suspect. Like, I don't know. Anyway, if I was writing to a crowd of 20-year-olds, I guess I would have to use the word sus in my writing, in my marketing. Thank God I'm not, because that's totally not how I talk. But you do need to think through some of those things, right? So you want to speak their language. You want to, and even speaking their language about the topics that they're talking about. If you're writing to young moms with kids, you've got to understand that they're talking about, maybe if they're new moms, they're talking about breast pumps and diapers and this type of thing, right? You've got to get into where they are and speak their language. You have to anticipate their questions. Where are they going in their journey and what questions are going to arise? And you want to craft relatable scenarios. You want to get metaphors, examples, stories that tie into their lives, right? Don't throw in random sports analogies that don't make any sense if it does not make sense for your book. Okay, here's a tip, the exercise for you guys that I really want you to do, and it so has helped me since, yes, Kim says she has a 14-year-old, and unfortunately that lingo is part of her everyday or her household vocabulary. And see, this is where if you were writing to teenagers, Kim would be a valuable resource, because you could say, Kim, would this make any sense to your daughter? Or could your daughter be part of my beta team, right? So finding those people and understanding that that is really happening, that they're really talking like this. I mean, think about it when we were kids. What are the words we used, right? Totally, like we said, I remember totally was a word we used a lot. Like, we said like a lot, which is funny because they do that again now and it's so annoying. But we did it like we were Valley girls, right? Like totally. Yeah, we were so yeah, young. Okay, so let's get on to the exercise. This really came about when I started the Writer's Retreat Box. Welcome, Jan. Jan's a brand new subscriber to the Writer's Retreat Box. If you're not a subscriber and you want to be, now's the time, because you get on the subscription service now and you will receive the boxes for October, November, December. When the cart closes at the end of this month, you won't be able to get on again until January's box becomes available. So if you want to get a box for the holidays and give yourself a Christmas present, now's the time. And you do that at writersretreatbox.com. But let's talk about this. Okay, so when I started this box stuff, I got a coach because I did not know what I was doing. And I was like, help. And so there's a lot to think about, right? There's a lot of moving parts. You've got to order this stuff. You've got to order the boxes, the packaging, the shipping labels. I mean, there's just so much. Well, one of the things that she taught me that was really important was to think about each month, what is your ideal audience for this box? What are they feeling, thinking, and doing? And when you ask yourself for each month, what are they feeling, thinking, and doing? It will really help you get into the mindset of your person. Even if your book is not for the month, you're not writing a book about November or October or whatever, it will really help you understand, like you'll start thinking about their day-to-day life differently. And so like for me, it is with the box, I am literally thinking like in September, we did a whole, in fact, I'm wearing my composition notebook dress today. I'm a big fan of composition notebooks. And that was, look at it, isn't it cute? It matches my dress. You guys, I'm just such a nerd for this pattern. And I found this dress at a resale shop and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a composition notebook dress. And I snatched it up. In the box, you got this little, this month was the mini notebook with a hair clip that matched it. So it's totally cute. But anyway, it was about back to school. And so why? Because September is huge back to school month, right? So I was getting in the mindset of what people are going through, what's going on in the world in September, and then created a box around that ties in. Let's go back to, okay, let's talk about this. So in July, this necklace came out of July's box, and this is an airplane. If you can't see, it's a paper airplane. And July was people. What happens in July? People travel, right? So the box was not necessarily about travel. It was about spreading the gospel and how you can do that with your book, which was just such a fun box to do. And I think I might have a box or two left. So if somebody wants one of those, let me know in the comments and I will get you a link to that box. But it really tied into summer travel. Like I was getting in my mind, where are they? What's happening in July? And then it sparked the idea of this box. And so in doing that, it may not tie in directly to your book, but it's going to help you start in your marketing, especially what are your readers thinking? What are they feeling? What are they doing? So for right now, let's talk about September. September, of course, back to school. I did a whole box on it. I really love the box. I'm really excited about it. Don't have any of those boxes left. They sold out. Praise God. It was such a fun box to do. But what else is going on in September? It is actually National Suicide Awareness Month. And as someone who has been suicidal in the past, it can be a very emotional time to see some of this stuff coming up, right? You see people posting about it, you see this, and then for me, it reminds me, oh, you got to write that book because I'm writing a book about that. And so you've got to think about what's going on in the minds of your readers during the month. So this month, back to school. This month is suicide awareness focus. So maybe, let's just take Jan, for instance. Jan, you're writing about people and their spiritual beauty. And maybe that ties into this month somehow, right? That spiritual beauty is something that will when you understand how spiritually beautiful you are, it will completely change how you see yourself in this world. And it's a great suicide prevention, if you will, right? So tying it in together, thinking about, does that affect your readers? Are they affected by that? Have they thought about that? I was surprised recently, an author shared with me in an email, thanked me for my post on 9/11 and actually said that they also struggled with suicide and the suicidal thoughts in the past. And so it is out there. People are struggling with this. And so we have to acknowledge where they are or might be in this month, right? Then we're moving into October. October's National, I think it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, right? And so maybe that affects your reader. And again, just using Jan's spiritual beauty, right? We're talking about women who may or may not feel beautiful anymore because they've maybe lost part of their body physically. Or they may be going through cancer and they are losing their hair. Or so thinking about where they are in the month, what is happening, right? This will help us not only so Jan, right there alone, that's 2 topics that you could address in your book. Not that they relate to any specific month in your book, but in your book you could talk about those two topics. Just being aware of the world and what people experience all the time, right? So just going through the months. And so then on your socials, now this gives you a whole new thing to talk about on your socials when you're talking about the specific months. So I want you to do this exercise. I want you to sit down with a pen and paper. I want you to write down the months. And then I want you to, and maybe you start right where you are, right? Let's start in September. And what is your reader experiencing this month? Your ideal reader, that person that you're talking about. Let's go back up here to Kim's and just go back through her person again. She says she doesn't have a name, but her reader is probably struggling to hear God's voice, letting his truth speak to her heart. Whew, that probably ties into this month more than you think, with suicide awareness. And so if you're struggling to hear God's voice, God's not telling you to take your own life. He's not. He would never tell you to do that. So maybe you're struggling. Maybe let me walk with me. Read this book. Walk with me. There's a way to talk to your readers about this and tie it together. It's a serious topic, and people seriously need our help. And that's what we're trying to do with our books, right? And so if you can sit down and think about where is your reader this month, and how does what's going on in the world this month affect them? The seasons are changing. Does that affect people's emotions? It's going to be dark earlier. Does that affect people? What is happening, and how can you talk to your reader in your book? Is this something that needs to be addressed in your book, or is it just a marketing topic? Or is it both? And so go through each month and think about it. Okay, so let's just, off the top of our heads, let's just go through. So October's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's also Halloween, it's fall, all of those things. How do those things fit your reader? I'm sure if you Googled, you'd find more things that are going on in October, right? Maybe it's sports that are happening in and around your community. In November, obviously, it's Thanksgiving. It's everybody's talking about gratitude and these types of things. And so how does your reader experience that? Is there stress and emotions with family visiting? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? And what are they doing? What are they thinking? Hopefully they're being thankful. What are they feeling? They might be feeling overwhelmed because the family's coming to visit, or maybe they're feeling overwhelmed because they don't have family, or right? And then what are they doing? Are they preparing their home? Are they preparing meals? Are they serving their community? What are they thinking, feeling, and doing? That's what you want to ask for every single month of the year. So in December, same thing. What are they thinking, feeling, and doing in the month of December? Are they last minute Christmas shopping? Are they, struggling with the holidays and the emotions? Come January, what are they focused on? Most people in January are focused on health, getting back to their health, their visions for the year, setting goals, all of those things. Maybe it's winter, it's still really cold. Maybe they're focused on staying warm and staying inside and reading cozy books, right? So really go through every single month of the year and write down, what are they thinking, feeling, and doing. Thinking, feeling, doing, for every month of the year. And you will be surprised at how insightful this is going to be for you in writing your book, and in you in doing your marketing. It's going to blow your mind. It really is. It's blown mine. It's been such a gift to get that information. And obviously it was to apply towards my box, but and I do every month. When I'm thinking about the months ahead, like I've already planned out through February, the boxes. But when I am doing that and thinking about it, I literally sit down. What are they thinking, feeling, doing every month, right? And what can I bring alongside them to support them? And so you need to be doing the same thing in your marketing, in your writing. Okay, let's see where we are in the comments. Kim's laughing. Yes. Get Kim some research from her daughter if you're writing to 14-year-olds. Okay, any questions, comments, concerns? I told you this is a lot of content today. We've gone about 10 minutes over already. It is a lot of content, but it's really important. And if you do this exercise, I promise you, you're going to feel differently about your reader. It's going to spark something new, something that makes you feel more connected to them, even understanding what are they thinking, feeling, and doing all the seasons of the year. You're going to then start seeing them in a different light. And this is going to help you with that persona that was point number one or tip number one. So, any last minute comments? Anything come up new for you while we've been chatting about your ideal reader? I would love to hear it in the comments. And don't forget that if you're interested in a writer's retreat box, get that at writersretreatbox.com. And if you're interested in joining our coaching community, you can do that at publishandtell.com. And if you're interested in doing that, do it today so you can get on Friday's Tech Talk, because we're going to talk about some fun things on Friday in that community. So if you're a part of the community, I will see you Friday at noon here on Facebook Live, and we will be discussing some fun things over there regarding tech, specifically regarding connecting your where to put this profile that you've created. And we're going to talk about your opt-in and doing that without a website. So we're going to talk through that a little bit more. And then whatever other questions you guys have. So I can't wait to see you on Friday. Until then, happy writing and to make it a great Writing Wednesday. Thanks for being here. Talk to you soon.